So a lot of talk about the cloud generally focuses on IT, and it makes IT's job easier, which is great. But unfortunately, with a lot of that talk, what you get is a lot of focus on IT, which isn't really going to generate a lot of investment from the business side. So in institutions, especially financial institutions, the struggle is when you're talking about a cloud transformation, they don't want to invest in something like that because IT doing their job faster isn't really a good business case for that. What they don't realize a lot of times is the business agility that comes along with that. So when you're talking about experimenting and doing different things with different products, or being able to scale and spin up environments to be able to actually code and develop in an experimental type of way, and to interact with customers and have everything available to do that for, whether it be usability testing or different proofs of concept, that allows the business to shift focus very quickly. The other thing, from an operational process or business process standpoint, if a business process changes and changes quickly, you can actually focus that change and do it from an IT perspective without the concern for resources, because the resources are very agile in a cloud environment. And so you can actually shift that focus and adhere to that process from an IT perspective a whole lot quicker than you could with a traditional mainframe setup.
Different financial institutions have different ways of calculating return on investments. So, for many of them, it's the famous OPEX versus CAPEX argument. But with the cloud, the IT spending is shifted to a pay-as-you-go kind of model. So you have this concept of on-demand pricing, where you don't necessarily have to guesstimate what capacity you need beforehand when you're designing your cloud architecture. And a good example of that is the ability that's provided by some cloud providers to scale horizontally to adapt to different demands in network performance. So this scaling is good for not only for performance, but also for cost optimization, because once the demand dies down, then these virtual machines are deprovisioned, and that helps the financial institutions to not have to pay extra for what they don't necessarily need. And these cloud service providers, they offer a good amount of documentation and transparency for these product offerings that they have. And this kind of makes the financial institutions themselves a bit more involved in the total cost of ownership calculations.
Another way that it supports this innovation is economies of scale. So if you think about a traditional type of legacy environment, it's a lot of mainframes, it's a lot of data centers, it's a lot of resources to be able to manage that. Not only from just a maintenance perspective, but anytime anything's updated, or you have a new code type that comes out, or any shifts that you need to do both from a product and business process standpoint, it requires a lot of resources, both money and people. When you think about a cloud environment, there's a lot less that's required of that from a resource perspective. You have not only cost-based pricing, but you also have less resources and actual manpower that's required to both maintain and actually spin up environments and actually do different things with that. So you're able to scale very quickly, and then also contract very quickly if you need to. If maybe a product you were trying to prove out doesn't work very well and you move on to another product, you can spin down that environment and spin up another environment in order to do that. So from a business perspective, the economies of scale is a definite a feature that's going to help you from an innovation perspective. The other thing you think about when you think about economies of scale is you think about the technology purchasing power of a cloud service provider. So they're going to be able to structure the cloud in a way and offer different technologies that, as newer technologies come out, you'll be able to take advantage of those without having to do a whole lot of work internally versus operationally and on the IT side. So you're not worried about buying more infrastructure, you're not more worried about buying, getting resources and kind of investing in that technology, because your cloud provider, service provider already has that for you. The other thing you think about that's very beneficial from that is that you have newer products and services that are going to be coming out in the financial industry. It's constantly changing. Payments is constantly changing, whether it be Internet of Things or real-time payments or open banking. A lot of newer services and technologies and products are coming. As those are introduced, a cloud infrastructure is going to allow you to take advantage of those a whole lot faster than you normally would be.
And when it comes to traditional data centers, managing physical hardware on-prem at these data centers came with its own set of challenges. Scheduling maintenance windows for removing old hardware, installing the new hardware. Also on the software sense, where you had to schedule these windows to patch or update the software so that you have the latest and greatest versions out there. All these came with their corresponding and associated downtimes as well. Add to that the need to estimate the capacity correctly. These financial institutions had to get the specs right if they wanted to scale their servers vertically or even horizontally when it comes to ordering the number of servers as well to account for different network traffic. And failure to estimate this properly came at a dire cost in traditional on-premise systems because, from a timing standpoint, you had to wait for these servers to be actually designed and then shipped over to the on-prem, location. So that all came with harsher consequences. And say that the institutions did get those values right, in order for them to be proactive, they had to consistently operate at peak capacity to prevent failures from happening. So that came at a significant cost. So, with the advent of the cloud, some product offerings take care of a lot of these operations under the hood, and some of them seemingly take minutes, if not seconds, to conduct. So this would allow the financial institution to focus their energy more on creating value for the customer, and this would give them a better competitive edge in the market.